Well, I just meet a lot of people that are like, what can I do more? Like, I want to do more because, we talk a lot about it's not just a vote, it's about the love. And people are like, well, what do you mean by that? And I know, too, for me, like, I had no idea that there was a pro-life movement. Even when we started Embrace Grace, we didn't think we're starting a pro-life organization because I wouldn't have had any context as to what that was. I would have assumed that meant like picketing at abortion clinic because that's the only thing the media ever shows. It's like, and so that would have been the only context. No one ever told me what a pregnancy center was. No one ever told me that there's so many great organizations that are boots on the ground helping women. And it wasn't until I was at my first pregnancy center training conference where they asked me to do a panel, and I was completely blown away by all the vendors there, which all the vendors were really pro-life organizations that are boots on the ground. And the average person, I feel like, doesn't really know, maybe even what a pregnancy center is. Like, you run a pregnancy center. Do you feel like there's confusion around that? Like when you're talking to like an average Christian from church, like they like, what?
Yeah, we had an individual come into our pregnancy center and was sat in on an Embrace Grace session, and she didn't realize how invested we were in her life. And she thought it was more of just pregnancy tests, ultrasounds, and just kind of some support, but didn't know the vast support that surrounded her and her baby and her family.
Yeah, that's what I find too. Or one time I was giving a pastor a tour of our Embrace Grace offices, and I was showing him our love boxes that we give to moms with unplanned pregnancies or give to pregnancy centers. And, I was like, what a pregnancy center is, right? He was like, oh, yeah, yeah. And I was like, okay, we give him these love boxes. And we'll go through the whole spiel. And he's like, wait, is that like a Planned Parenthood? I'm like, okay, let's start from the beginning. Pregnancy centers are, so how would you, because this is a great way people can get involved in the movement, first and foremost,
Yes.
is serving or helping or funding their local pregnancy centers. So what's the best way to word it to people that may not understand what a pregnancy center does?
I think just really just knowing where an organization is in their local community.
Yeah.
First, just finding out where they can connect, but then also just how they can come alongside brave families that are facing unexpected pregnancies. And everybody can do something.
Yeah, what are some of the ways that people volunteer just literally at the center?
So they can come and mentor someone. So that can be, an individual that's found out they're pregnant and they just need the extra support.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that don't have a family support, mom, dad. There's nobody feeding into them.
So true.
And so they are they're hungry for community. And so just having that connection with someone, so mentorship is huge. And they might even connect with us medically. So there's a lot of people that have retired in the medical community and they're looking to a place to plug in. So that's an avenue that they can plug in.
Like they could do the sonograms possibly.
Sonograms, pregnancy tests, STD testing. They could get involved in that way. And education is a big piece. The medical education that surrounds the difficult topic of abortion, and just being able to educate that woman so she knows exactly what she's going to do before she does it. And that usually ultimately leads her to make a life decision. She's like, I can't do that. And the education is huge and important. And just people just to love on them after they have the baby. Or it's a program to invest in their lives, like a 8-week study or 12-week study, whatever that looks like for them. There's so many people that can do just individual things.
Right, that have specific gifts and strengths that God put inside them
Yes.
that they are even naturally talented at, that they would feel like it's a joy to serve in that way because that's already what their gift set is, I know, and I love how Tony Evans, he's one of my favorite pastors, but he says that the pregnancy centers are the first response team and the church is the hospital. And I love that. And leading Embrace Grace, and you have Embrace Grace too, it's such a great partnership with the girls going to the pregnancy center, getting the care and support they need there, getting even the relational support too, like what you said, a lot of the mentoring and things, but then also getting them plugged into a spiritual family and helping them get integrated into the church, because a lot of times they're so super nervous about that. But even as leaders of Embrace Grace, I know I've led, you kind of organically see needs,
Yes.
that just kind of comes out over the course of the semester of leading this group, of like different situations that they're in, or hard things that they're walking through, or maybe it's just that they just need a dream, or like, they're in like survival mode, right? Like they're just trying to get through the day, and it's hard for them to think about what do they want to do with their life, because they just need a paycheck and they need to get through the day. So how have you seen through Embrace Grace, or just the church in general, people getting involved in the movement in that way, or how you've seen the church wrap around care around moms through that relationship with the church? Obviously, leading Embrace Grace is a great way to get involved. But what other things have you seen?
I think them just realizing that there is a need. I mean,
Just the awareness.
A lot of the women that come through our doors, the dads that come through our door, think that they're all alone. They're in this by themselves. And I think a lot of times pregnancy centers and just the movement in general, they feel like when they're in their own local community are all alone. But just starting to share that message and the need. I was sharing with someone earlier today that, Jesus spoke in parables in the Bible and caused people to act and do something. So as we go into the local church and share, they want to be involved. They want to do something to help. And it just may be, we have a mom that needs mechanical issues fixed on her car. She doesn't know where to turn to. She doesn't have the money because there's more month than there is money. And somebody says, well, I can't serve every day, but I could fix the problem in our car. So just sharing little needs like that, and that's through building relationships in the community.
Just by finding out and uncovering it. I know I've seen so many churches get creative with it, or even I'm surprised too, just posting on Facebook of like, for me, I think because I have a lot of alumni that's got, I've got my current group, but then I've got 12 years worth of groups, and you have been doing it for so long.
9 years,
probably,
8 years. Yeah,
you've been leading Embrace Grace a long time, so you probably have this too, where sometimes the alumni come back all of a sudden and they're like, I'm in a really hard situation, I need help. And so I sometimes will just post on Facebook, and I am shocked. It is almost instantly how something is covered for, maybe it's electric bill and they're really struggling. In Texas over the summer, for whatever reason, our electric bills went nuts. And so it was so, Texas is hot.
Yeah.
But in July, one of the Embrace Grace moms, her bill was $700 for her apartment, her little 2-bedroom apartment, her electricity bill. And she was like, there's no way I cannot. And and it was about to be cut off by midnight, the next day. And we just did a post, and people want to help.
Yes.
They just need to know how to.
Yes.
And I've seen, there's just been so many, definitely the car thing. There's so many great people that have stepped forward to help with that, whether it's financially or maybe they're just really good at fixing cars, that they've helped in that way. I've seen people help with like resumes, or if they're really great at HR. I have one friend that she keeps a lot of interview clothes on hand in all different sizes, in case she ever has a single mom that she did HR all her life, so she's really good at it. So she'll help them get their resume like tip top shape, and then she gives them a cute outfit to wear that's professional, and and then coaches them on how to do the interview and everything, and helps them dream again. And that was something she's done her whole life that she's already naturally gifted at, and she serves in that way. And I think the big thing is sometimes we just overcomplicate, like this magical thing that we're supposed to do, when really it's just what has God put inside of us that we can use to make the world a better place, to help single moms, to make abortion unthinkable, because he has put something inside of us. I've seen women, I was at an event not too long ago, I randomly ran into some Embrace Grace leaders from Virginia. And the people, they actually weren't leaders. What they said was it was her and her teen daughter, and she said they don't have childcare at their church on weeknights. So her and her daughter go up to the church on Wednesday nights when they have the Embrace Grace group, because a couple of the moms had already had their baby, or one had a previous baby, and they watch the kids. She's like, it's such a bonding time with her and her teen daughter, and we love children and babies. Like, we can hold babies all day long, and that's how they give back. There's like so many great things. And what you were saying earlier about teeth, like, what was that?
It was years ago. It was probably our first group. Eight years ago, and I was just sharing in a Sunday school class about a prayer need. I was like, this woman had stepped out of addiction, and she was definitely changing her life for the good. And she's like, I'm so ashamed because I don't really have any teeth. Just a cycle of addiction had just wore all of that, her teeth out. And
that probably affected all her relationships, like future dreaming about jobs or job interviews, like that weighing on you was hard.
Self-confidence and everything. So I just shared just to pray for that, and somebody approached me and said, hey, I want to pay for her for a full set of dentures. And so that changed her life. It's just little things that we all have a place in the movement, and we have a seat at the table. There was last year in one of our Embrace Grace classes, one of the moms we helped her get an apartment. We needed to furnish that apartment, and it was like within a couple of days she had everything that she needed for her apartment. She didn't really have to pay a dime for anything. But the beauty thing about that, she come to know the Lord through that class, and it was the Sunday after the Supreme Court decision for Roe v. Wade. She got baptized at a local church, and the pastor always asks who the family is here to support this individual. Will you please stand up? And the whole church stood up, and it's so like sweet. That's what it's about. The whole church. We are the church, standing up, and we do have a place to help one individual, 10, 5, just however many it is. There is a place for all of us to come and have a conversation.
Yeah, and I think, so like we were saying earlier, sometimes people overcomplicate it or think, I have to have a lot of money, but I've seen people do big things. I've seen people do the smallest thing and make a huge difference. I remember it's one of my employees. She was a single mom years ago, and she said that she had an apartment and she was on the 3rd floor, and she had a brand new newborn baby, no baby dad in the picture. And she said, I stressed so much about how I was going to take out the trash, because they have lots of fines and stuff. Like, you can't leave, like, you have to take it to this dumpster. And she's like, do I carry the newborn in a carrier and hold the trash too? Like, how do I do that? Do I put the newborn in the carrier and lock the door and pray that, just all the little thoughts I've had of like, how do I do this? And so she knew it was twice a week that the trash would go out. And so the night before, she would put it right outside her door to take first thing in the morning. And she said every time when she would get out the door, she said someone had picked it up and taken it out. And she said she had just gotten saved right before that. And she said she kept feeling like that it was Jesus that was taking out the trash for her. And it made her feel so much better about, her situation and giving her hope and stuff. And that's the tiniest thing, but meant the world to her. And I think the biggest thing is just being obedient to the Lord, of what the Lord's asking us to do, because there are so many young single moms or young single dads that are asking God, do you see me? Do you hear me? And being obedient and sensitive to Holy Spirit's leading of when He's asking us to do something like that, because you never know how much it's going to impact someone. And then on a big scale, actually just 2 weeks ago, an alumni from 10 years before, she reached out to me and she's like, I have gotten myself in a really hard situation. I'm homeless. And I knew this. She has no family whatsoever. So she doesn't have like a backup plan. Like, it's just, and so she had bought herself a car, which she was super proud of, but she just didn't have the best knowledge about budgeting. So the car was amazing, but now it was making her rent like she couldn't quite afford it every month.
Yeah.
And so she was like very like she had the car for like 2 months and she's realizing, oh no, what did I do? And she's like waiting tables and she can't, but then it was a real issue because she needed to get to work, you know. So she called me, she's like, I just got evicted and I don't know what to do. I'm in my car, you know, all that. So I posted on Facebook. I'm like, this girl, I went ahead, you know, there's sometimes, and it's probably the same thing for you. Like sometimes the Lord asks me to do something and then sometimes he's like, you're not their savior.
Yeah.
I am. Get out of the way because I want, you know. But I did feel like the Lord told me to get her in like an Airbnb or hotel for like, because it was literally like the week before Christmas. And it was cold. There was about to be an ice. I was like, let me get her in a place for like a week or two and then we can see, because a lot of the homes and stuff, they were kind of closed down. So I felt like the Lord said, so I did that, but still then I did a post. And one of my friends called me and he's like, I don't know if you know this about me, but I own several apartment complex, like buildings. And I'm like, no, I had no idea. And he said, one of my apartments just became available. I was raised by a single mom and I know how hard they work. I would love to cover or to let her live there rent free her and her daughter in this apartment. And me and my wife will help her, teach her about budgeting and finances because I can help with that, and my wife as well. And he said, I'll cover her electricity for a year too, just to help her like get a head start on this next season. And I mean, and he was like, had so much joy as he's telling me this. Like it was a joy for him to give in that way. But like both of those things, small and big, they made such an impact on a single mom's life.
Yeah, and just the simple fact of just maybe sharing something on social media that's in a positive way that would impact a life and
It's
just
huge.
the future generations of that life. How just simple that is.
Right.
That would reach the right person that's just happened to scroll and see it, and just to make
It's like a faith booster too.
Yes.
Okay, so beyond pregnancy centers and beyond Embrace Grace and the church and all that, what are like some other things? Like I know what comes to mind as far as ways that people can get involved in the movement. I know maternity homes are really great. I know that I've seen like church groups go in and like do a big deep cleaning, or maybe they will remodel one of the rooms and like put in new bedding and things and make it like fresh, or teach classes there, you know, or the
Yes.
pregnancy center. So maternity homes are a huge way to get involved if there are any in your community. Also, just even looking at things like grants, you know, I feel like everybody should at least have some knowledge about the pregnancy centers for sure in our area, plus any organizations and resources that are in our community. I feel like churches or people should have like a resource list of like, if you ever meet someone in this situation or any kind of hard, complex situation, there's already a lot of organizations in your community you may not even know about that are like the best at that.
Yes.
And so it doesn't always have to come out of the church outreach budget. Like there could be organizations that are already helping in that way. And so at least having a knowledge of that is huge. And especially as churches, like if someone calls you and says, I need help, maybe you're a small church and you don't have the resources to help, but if you at least have the knowledge of what's going on in the community, helping bridge that and being, you know, walk alongside her for sure, but help her get connected to that is huge.
Yeah, we have like 4 resource manuals that we continually update every year because there's so many resources. And one of our champion men that volunteer at the center, and that's another thing, there's a voice for everyone in the pro-life movement. But he told this mom, he's like, there is every resource. Now, granted, where you live is big too, but there is every resource for you to be a thriving parent, to knock parenthood out of the park.
That's so good.
In this community. I will help you find it. And so it's just that comforting and knowing, okay, I'm seen, I'm, I'm known, I'm loved, and I can do this. They have that small little sliver of hope that I'm not alone, and there's somebody that cares and that's going to help me find it.
Well, I'm going to do a shameless plug too, because helperbebrave.com and Help Her Be Brave book. Have you read that book?
Yes, I love it.
It's got over 300 ideas of how to get involved in the movement. And then helperbebrave.com, you can take a quiz and find ways to get involved if you're still like, I'm not sure. Or I feel like pregnancy centers, like you have a great example right there. You said 400?
There's 4 manuals of just resources.
You know of a lot of resources because it's such complex issues that these girls are walking through. Like, there's not a cookie cutter way that you're like, this is how you empower mom and save a baby. It's complicated. So you got to have a lot of resources at your fingertips. So if you're not sure where to get involved, contact your pregnancy center in your area and ask them, hey, do you have any ideas of how I can get involved? There's like, the opportunities are endless, right?
It really is.
Yeah, for sure. So, and Stand for Life has really great content on their website too to help you get involved, on ramp you into the movement. Check out their website. There's lots of organizations that they're representing and it might get you ideas. Something will trigger inside of your heart, like as you're looking at one of the websites they collaborate with, that you're like, that's it. This is how I'm supposed to get involved. And don't feel like you're disqualified, because God qualifies you. You have a place in the movement, and together we can make abortion unthinkable.
Yeah, just praying and asking God. He will show you and reveal it to you of where He wants you, and He'll speak to you.
For sure.